Hello, everyone. Jen Gilchrist here. Happy to be here on this topic, which is really one of my favorite topics, which is all around co creating miracles and healing with your archangels. So, whether you are live or on replay, say hello. I'm super excited to know who is here and see how this worked for you. I love it to be interactive. So, if you have comments or questions along the way, I'd love to hear them as well. So I'd love to hear to begin with, have you ever recognized working with your archangels? Like, are you already familiar working with your angels and guides, or is this something new for you? Let me see. Hello, Miles. Good to see you here. So let me know, have you already been working with your archangels? And what are maybe you want to even share if you have some success with that or pitfalls with that. I'm going to share a little bit of both of those things today. I'm going to share definitely three essential keys that I think will help you to manifest more quickly and easily with your archangels. And I'm also going to share with you some of the things that I know that I experienced, right? Both some miracle stories so that you can see sometimes I think that we are working with our angels and through our intuition and we don't even realize it. And so when we have that awareness, that's really helpful. And also some pitfalls that I know I experienced, right? Because you're definitely not alone in that if that is for you, from you. So awesome to see you all here from England, from Canada, from all over. I always love that. So let's kind of dive in. First of all, I just want to say, cultivating relationship with my archangels, I often call them my angelic advisors, is definitely probably one of the most empowering relationships and tools. It's a spiritual tool and relationship that I've really ever spent my time and energy and money working with. And when I noticed that when I began to cultivate this relationship enough to trust it in a big way, I began to dream bigger dreams, right? It allowed me, and I think it will allow you. I know I've supported hundreds and hundreds of students, maybe even in the thousands by now with this Facebook group growing for sure. But just in terms of people, teaching them how to work with their archangels and reported back how it's created miracles in their life for years to come. And so this is definitely something that's really valuable at sea. Relatively new since September. Archangel Michael has been my training wheels. You know what? Archangel Michael's amazing. I still work with Archangel Michael all the time. In fact, I'll probably share a miracle story a little bit later today about Archangel Michael because he's amazing, right? And his energy is big, right? And this is something that you'll notice is they all have unique energy frequencies and specialties that makes it really, really fun. So let's coming back to this now. So they really, working with the archangels, it allowed me to dream bigger dreams and to really believe that it was possible. And once I started really co-creating in this way, miracles just opened so much more naturally and easily. I do believe that we are powerful conscious creators, and when we allow ourselves to co-create with our spirit team, it just allows things to be more fun, more easy, more effortless, and things can change very, very quickly, especially when you feel like you're stuck in a hard spot, like when you really can't see the answer or you're really in a lot of fear. This is when we really leaning into the arms of our angels can be really, really powerful. Okay. So that's what I want to talk about. A couple things I do want to share to begin with in case, and I'm curious, you can let me know in the comments if this is something that you've experienced or not. But for me, there's three main issues when I first started learning about, oh my gosh, first of all, I had no idea most of my life that we had spirit team and angels, right? I was 32 and I had my awakening initially. And I was like, oh my goodness, I knew we could pray and God, we had God and angels. And, through my upbringing, it was very basic in that way. We didn't talk about manifesting or working with your angels and guides in an intimate way in a daily practice that could actually support you. So I would love to hear in the chat. So the first time I started recognizing this, it was super exciting, but then I felt like it was a foreign language. Like part of the issue was like I would start to see the vague signs and angel numbers or feathers or just being aware of them, and I knew it was real, but it was super like I didn't know how to decipher the signs. I didn't know what they were trying to tell me. So let me know if that's ever happened to you. The other problem was, even when I did receive clear messages, oftentimes I was not trusting them enough, right? To be able to really take the leap of faith, to really take the guided action. It's like even once I got them, I was just like, I don't know if I can trust that, right? And so then, and because of that, my life really didn't change very quickly or consistently when it came to my manifesting. And then the third thing I think that was a little bit of a hiccup was not having community or people to share with, right? I was so excited about this. And I was like, had this amazing time with my angels and my spirit guides. But then fear would kind of creep up, right? Whether that was my upbringing, my religious upbringing and programming, or my family's fear about, it being, the devil tricking me, or, just general doubt in general, and not even having the community to share with. So to me, that was really huge. Now, y'all have this community here, especially if those of you that are live on my Facebook group, Soul Inspired Leaders Collective, because I am streaming on YouTube and other places as well. That's a great community, right? I love seeing you all sharing support stories and all of that. But you know how it can feel like you're all alone, right? And then what happens is our mind wants to take over and doubt the what we're asking, because the way that working and co-creating miracles and creating that in your life more effortlessly takes leaps of faith. It takes doing things that aren't always logical. It takes, trusting something before it's visible, seen, or before it's a done deal. And our mind and our ego wants it to be planned out. It wants to have the whole plan. It wants to have a sure thing. And that just doesn't happen, right? That typically is not how it happens, right? So let me know if that makes sense for you, or if you've had any of those fears before, right? I know that was a big part of my initial part of my journey. And so today, what I'm excited to share with you is some things that you can really implement and put into action in a way that will help you to have more empowerment and more ease when it comes to working with your angels and guides, and how you can work with them. So yes, sometimes it can be confusing, or you don't know what to listen to. Absolutely, 100% felt the same way. Now, I promise you, it is a journey. So no matter where you're at, this information will apply to you, whether you're new on your path, or if you are drawn to this and you've already been working with them. There's something I promise that usually there's always this synchronicity, right? Like, oh, I needed to hear that today. I needed that reminder, right? You'll pick up something that might be new for you even, right? So trust that process as well, because really when it comes to working with your archangels, they have helped me in so many ways, whether it's manifesting money at the 11th hour that I needed it, right? Getting clarity and confidence with my soul's purpose, and really the programs I create. I'm always working in tandem with channeling these programs and informations and Facebook lives that I do to be as best service for people, right? Also for healing my body. I've been car accidents. I've had avoided car accidents. Like, there's so many different ways that creating this relationship can help you in your day-to-day life. Now, when we work with the archangels, one thing to know is that they are not limited by time and space. So there's never anything too big or small to ask. And their main purpose is really here to help humanity experience more peace, right? And a simplistic term, they're here to help humanity experience more peace. And part of that, I mean, there's a lot under that umbrella, right? But that is the big things, like our spiritual evolution, of course, for sure. They're on the leading edge of that with us. But even in the little things, right? Like the stressful things, like running late, for losing your keys. Oh my gosh, Archangel Shamuel is forever saving me if I've lost my key or my phone or something like that. If I'm in my head a little bit, right? So it's the big things and the little things that you can ask them for. And I really, really encourage you to ask on the small things, because it's when you cultivate that day-to-day communication with them that you really start to be able to hone in and trust what is a true guidance, what is not. Right? When you start to build that trust and you start to see it manifest into a positive outcome for you, you're more likely to be able to cultivate that trust muscle and take bigger leaps of faith when you're the most afraid, right? When it's like you're riding on the big, like more things are riding on it, right? So does that make sense? So let me know if that makes sense. So the first key really is to ask, right? I suggest getting clear. They can help you find clarity. So if you don't have clarity, when it comes to consciously creating, right, miracles, which my definition of miracle is that we're meant to experience miracles every day. It should be normalized as our new normal. And that means that you have a conscious intention to create something, and then you allow it to come in, right? That's very simple. But in the end of the day, it's very much about asking, basically having an intention for something. And so you want to ask, because when we ask and then open up and invite our spirit team, we have free will of choice here on earth, right? And they're waiting, just waiting, tapping their toes. Like sometimes they're actually trying to get our attention to invite them in, right? They're like, hello, we're here, invite us in. And we want to show you some ways, and you're in your head right now. And so they can be really powerful at helping you to kind of continually bring you back into alignment throughout the day. And the more aligned you are throughout the day, the quicker you'll manifest, right? And so the first step is really to ask, invite them in. And I do suggest getting clarity about what you want to create. Now, like I said, you can create more broad, but then over time, when you start to hone in and get more specific about what you want, the more quickly it can come to you. So there is some good practices around just in your morning routine using meditation and journaling to get clear about what you want. Also, because we can manifest things that maybe aren't going to bring us what we thought it was going to. Maybe it doesn't end up bringing you the joy and satisfaction you thought, even though it's what you asked for, right? Because again, free will of choice. We get to choose. So the first step is really getting clear and asking them to support you. And then number two, important key to know, and this is probably one of the bigger ones for people, this is to let go of the how and just be willing to allow, right? Let go of the how to, right? When we try to get force something to come in a certain way or at a certain time, or very, very, again, we start to cut off the ability for miracles to come in for many reasons. One is sometimes if we don't have the plan all laid out, we won't even take the first step. It's like we want to have this blueprint. Let me know if you ever wanted the whole blueprint laid out. Wouldn't that be nice? From X to Z, or from A to Z, of everything to do. And the reality is what I have found is usually your steps will come one or two at a time. Right. So it'll come one or two at a time, in which case, if we don't take the one or two steps, the next steps don't come, and then we'll never get there. So it's like, in some ways, we stop ourselves from starting if we have to have it all figured out. And that's a level of trust, right? Trying to control the situation or feel in control. And so part of this is like this exercise of surrendering into that trust, of letting go of the how. Just be clear and asking for what you want, and then surrendering up into that support for the universe and for God, for the angels, for your spirit guides. And this is really true for all of our spiritual friends, to help you. And so this is important to do, because otherwise we'll stop ourselves before we start, right? Or we'll pinch ourselves off, like insisting that the money needs to come this one specific way, or we have our head just like tunnel visioned on this situation, and you're hitting roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, which is an indicator that either you're misaligned or you have an internal block of your own ability to receive it, right? Both could be true. However, sometimes it's just that we're tunnel visioned and we're missing all of the doors of opportunity and miracles on the sidelines that they're trying to show us, because we're trying to force it to be a certain way. Maybe a certain job, or a certain partner, or a certain program, that you're maybe wanting to create. And so that part is difficult. But the reality is, the more that we cultivate this trust in the process and not need to know all of the plan yet, we can lean back into our divine feminine energy, right? Male and female, gender does not matter. We all have both energy qualities within us, and it requires both in order to manifest and consciously create miracles with your archangels, or with just in general, right? And so we have to lean back, and that's where we can start to let go of the reins and allow the miracles to come in, and see different opportunities that maybe we would have sworn were not there a minute ago. And maybe your energy was so closed off, it wasn't there. I mean, vibrationally, it wasn't there because you weren't open to it. So as soon as we lean back, we can go, oh my gosh, there's all these different ways that I wasn't even seeing, right? Or a miracle, or a door opening out of the blue, seemingly, right? It's not really out of the blue. It's very cosmically orchestrated, and we attract it through our vibration, or we block it through our vibration. So that's a really important key that people get stuck in, right? Letting go of the how, so you can lean back and allow that receptivity, which is also where you can hear the answers to your prayer. So we have to be proactive in asking and being willing to take action, but we also have to lean back and say, okay, I'm going to receive the messages now. We can't just talk, and then not get the download back, right? Some people will say prayer or intention setting is like, intention setting or prayer, however you like to ask, right, is one thing. But then if we don't lean back and just receive, meditation is really where you can receive the answers, right? So we do have to learn to quiet the mind, because our angels and guides and our intuition speaks to us in a much softer voice. And if we're too busied in our fear and in our head and in our mind and in our thoughts, we'll miss it, right? So this is an important practice. And so it's really important to, not have to have it all figured out, basically. And then the key number three essentially is take the guided action, right? And again, this does require a little trust. And in the larger scheme of things, like my story that some of you may have already heard, where I talked about, where I was really getting serious about my purpose work, and I got guided to this client attraction summit. Like, how do I attract my clients? And they start talking about speaking, which is my biggest fear. And it was like a $22,000 program. And I didn't even have my mortgage payment at the time. And I was freaking out to learn my biggest fear and to pay this big expense. I didn't know how, but I was willing to allow. And I had learned because I had cultivated. Now, I wouldn't have been able to make a huge investment like that, most likely, right out the gates with working with my angels. But because I had already for 5 years or more, 7 years probably by then, been working with the daily little steps like I'm sharing with you, which I'll give some examples for in the day-to-day life, when it came time to do that, and I really felt it in my being that I was being called to do that, I was able to trust and leap. And of course, the money came, my income increased. And now I get to be here with you, right? Doing the things that I love. And I wouldn't have been there had I not done that, right? Or maybe I would have, but it would have taken longer. So we're the one prolonging our miracles, right? Through blocking ourselves in that way, or either, whether it's through blocking our ability to feel worthy and receive it, or through our fear of not going for it because we don't have a sure thing written out. Does that make sense? How do you meditate when there's so much noise? This is a great question because, it's really a daily practice. It's not going to be perfect, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay. It really is a daily practice that even for me, after all these years of meditating, my awakening, my initial dark night of the soul awakening, when I started learning about meditation was in 2008. So, and even still to this day, though I have a pretty solid practice, some days are easier than others. Sometimes the collective energy is easier than others. Sometimes our personal life is easier than others. And so it really does come down to me, 5 minutes a day is better than no minutes. And I do teach, of course, courses on how, my tools and techniques for meditation, but it really does come down to just being present with making the time and space consistently to be quiet with yourself, even if you're just focusing on your breath and your body, even if you're just journaling, right? So it is a practice that does get easier, but sometimes it is just, sometimes it really does come down to just learning tools as well, right? So if you need help with that, you can always reach out to me. I can't always see on Facebook. If you don't click the initial link, I can't see who's saying the comments, but I can later when I come into the replay. Yes, I struggle with the blueprint. You're not alone. I've been stuck on wanting to see the steps all written out. See, you're not alone in here, right? And it does get easier when you practice. And when we practice in the day-to-day, it's like kind of somebody mentioned earlier, I got training wheels on, with Archangel Michael, who, by the way, I think is amazing to work with always. And that's great, because if we don't practice in the day-to-day, then we won't be able to take those big leaps of faith. And that's when you start to quantum shift, quantum leap, and miracles can happen very quickly, right? So let me come back to my notes here, because I did have a couple other things I wanted to share. So when it comes to, a couple of different things that were coming to mind to share with you as examples. So when it comes to the day-to-day, there's no, I do practice with, lead me to the quickest direction, parking lot space, set the intention to ask my angels if there's a huge long line at the grocery store. I'll ask, hey, help me get to the shortest line. And you know what? Lo and behold, somebody will open a new register, and then I will get called out of the line over, into that shorter line. When I'm conscious and deliberate and invite it, things pop really, really quickly, right? And if I didn't, likely they wouldn't, right? Somebody else would be lined up for that miracle instead of me, because I wasn't really open and available or asking for it, right? So yes, even somebody said, even in the bathroom, absolutely. I have been known to take 5-minute bathroom breaks when I was especially working at the salon, because I would just I need to go ground, right? And those of you in my Facebook group also probably hear me talk about the TLC body meditation, which is a good one to ground and release energy with. Talk to your body, listen to your body, and commit to your body's needs, right? So just focusing on your breath. That's a way to be present, to start to meditate as well. And then that's when the ideas are quieted, the mind is quieted, and you can start to download the information and ideas. So a couple of examples. One example is, and you can really work with your angels for everything. And these are all things I've personally manifested in different areas. Health in my body, healing in my body, uh, money for sure, a lot. Aligning with clarity and confidence of my soul purpose, my programs and things that I share with people. Uh, Safety. I mean, I call in my angels when I drive. And so this is something you can play with for sure when it comes to your angels and guides. So for instance, I had 10 minutes. Here's one example, super easy. So practice asking and then noticing what thoughts and ideas and visions come to you, and then take the action. Ask, listen, take the action, right? This is sort of really the process. And as you start to cultivate that, you'll get honed into the voice of your soul. You get honed in into the angels. And they do each all have different frequencies for healing, but also for personalities, which is really fun to get to know them. And I will share a little bit more about that at the end. I do have some of you may have seen this already, but I created a brand new, at this point in time, at least brand new Archangel Alignment Activation Series program, where you get to work and learn how to work with each individual 15 different archangels, which is pretty awesome because they do have different energy healing frequencies and qualities. And they do have personalities when it comes down to it too. So they're a lot of fun. You'll never feel alone, I don't think, with your archangels. They're here to help us feel their presence and to feel at peace and feel joy. So part of that is not being stressed. And so I asked the angels one day, I need to get somewhere. And it was like, I had 10 minutes. I had like basically in the best traffic scenario, 10 minutes is all I had to get back in time for an appointment or to an appointment. And if I hit all the lights right, I could make it. Otherwise, I was going to be late. And so I asked the angels, I'm like, okay, help me get there the quickest way. So I immediately was kind of in my head because I was a little flustered since I was running late. And I started driving basically. And all of a sudden I had this like vision in my mind that kind of went a little squiggly, like take this weird back road way. Here's a tip. I kind of poo-pooed it. I was like, why would I go that backwards way, right? I just asked, and because I was in my head, stressed out, I kind of shuffled it off, right? And I kept going the normal way. And guess what? All the traffic lights were out, blinking red. Guess what else? I was late to my appointment, very late, because because I didn't listen, right? And so let me know if you've ever argued with your angels, even when it's unconscious, but this is still not lost value because it showed me very clearly, that was my intuition. Well, of course. Why would I? Maybe I should question, where did that thought or idea come from? Because this is how our angels work with us all the time. So in that moment, I was able to have a deeper discernment of my own thought versus an angel guidance. Even though I ignored it, no harm, no foul. I was late. I would have been on time, probably. Again, no harm, no foul. It actually was valuable information because I got to see, that's what that was. So if I have a thought or idea, especially an unusual one, maybe I want to question and ask where that came from, and really would have taken that moment. I would have realized that was my angel's answers to my prayer, telling me to go this way. I would avoid the whole thing, and I didn't do it. Oh, well, right? Another quick one, as at the salon working back in the day when I used to do hair. And I always booked very tight. I like to be efficient. I didn't like to be there. I'd rather be there more busy for a shorter time. And so I took a client and I accidentally booked her like 2 hours later with a big old gap. And I was like, I wanted to call her back and say, I'm sorry, can I move it to this time to close the gap, right? So I didn't have to sit there for 2 hours. But I felt the internal feeling of, don't do that. Don't do that. And I didn't know why, right? But I knew well enough to listen. So I didn't fill the gap. I left that gap and I just thought, okay, I'm going to trust. Well, guess what? I went to work that day and somebody walked in and they needed a color correction, and I made an extra $200 in that 2 hours that I would not have been able to take had I booked that time. Right. And because I trusted it and I left it open, I was able to have that validated later. Now, here's the thing. I might have never realized that I even missed the opportunity if I moved it, because somebody else in the salon would have got that walk and I would have never even known that I missed it. Right. But because I had cultivated that, I thought, okay, there's some reason. I don't know why, but I'm going to trust. And then boom, I made an extra couple $100, got a new client actually. So that's another example. Another example, somebody mentioned Archangel Michael earlier. Oh, I love this. Yes, I always ask for a parking space with gratitude. Me too. I swear I have the best angels with parking. And I listen, feel it out, which way to drive and go. And I'll always, like, if I do that ahead of time, even the whole time we were in Hawaii, it was so hard to park in Kona. We always had a spot for the whole month we were there. Last summer, I went for a month with my daughter and we always had it. So cool. But they don't mind, but that's great because you're practicing that communication. So when you really need to make a big decision, you can do it even though it's not logical, because most of the time it's not going to be. Okay. What's the other thing? Oh, yes. Broke my foot in 2019 because I didn't listen. Yes, I've had situations. So just recognizing when we listen and don't listen is also, again, it's teaching us even more closely. What does it sound like? How are they talking to us? Right? What could I do differently? Which is very valuable information. One message, like with art, with healing. So travel, I always suggest invite Archangel Michael. And when you're traveling, I also work with Raphael and Metatron. I just load them up. Why not? I love all their support. And so I always set that intention. Well, in this case, it was Archangel Michael because it was early on. This was several years back now. And I was driving on the freeway. At the time, I was still doing hair and makeup for weddings, which was pretty high pressure because it was just me and one other person. We were already kind of, I won't say short staff, but we had to both be there working hard on time to get 5 hair and 5 makeup done in like 2.5 hours or something. It was crazy. It was very tight. And I was driving, and all of a sudden, and I had been on a big freeway, and then it narrowed down to like a 2-lane, and it was about to go on the River Levee Road, which was like this high road with steep hills on both sides right into the river, right? Super sketchy little road, especially when it's foggy. And so I was driving, and all of a sudden, there's just like a tiny gap of the freeway, like a minute or two long, where I was on a wide traffic area to the medium freeway right before the small one, and my tire blew out. And I swear I felt Archangel Michael, because I had already called him in and said, "Hey, Archangel Michael, I need to get to this wedding on time, quickly and safely. Have the whole hotel grounded, have this go smooth." Like I set my time in my meditation that morning for the whole thing to go smooth as it could, right? And always for my travel. And so all of a sudden, I felt my car just very quietly, like the tire blew out, but it took me very quietly and off the road. Nobody was around. There was this huge gravel side area, which wasn't there. It was a divider a second ago, like a divider with a lot of cars. And then it just opened up to that space right before I got in the river levee, which I would have gone down. I most likely would have fallen into the river, like a big, steep, tumbling drop, right? But instead, it just this perfect opportunity. And then I was like stressed because I'm like, oh, I don't know how to change my tire. I was in like a skirt. I had no time. So I asked again. I'm like, oh my gosh, Archangel Michael. And then 2 seconds later, this little older gentleman, he was so cute, came and he's like, "I just saw you in your Sunday best, and I thought I got to turn around and help that young lady." And he came back around, changed my tire, and I was able to get there safely and on time and complete the wedding, right? There are so many miracles with just in that little story. Definitely healed my body several times. So it's really endless, really, how they can support you. And it's in the day-to-day little stuff that will cultivate, and I've definitely felt where accidents have happened on a big freeway, and I felt this bubble where there was no cars around me that helped me shift lanes, and just avoid the whole thing in the Bay Area, right? So I can just countless times. And it's about creating that so that you recognize it, but then also so that you can trust it and take the guided action. Because again, we have to take the action or we'll block the miracle. Otherwise, it would be like a codependent exchange. We think we were lucky and we wouldn't evolve, right? Let's see. I have found that if you don't listen, let's see. I have found that if you don't listen, they will turn your life upside down, but for greater good. For example, abusive relationship, you should leave, but you don't. Over time, they will accumulate and they'll make you finally have the strength to leave, if that makes sense. Yes, I totally understand what you're talking about. It's kind of like people will say, "Oh, I got hit with a cosmic 2x4." I actually look at it slightly differently. I feel that we are actually creating through our vibration. So they're always there for us I don't believe that the universe is actually throwing at us, or the angels kind of throwing things upside down for us. I think that we get further and further out of alignment through our fear, and it attracts more quickly, more and more and more heightened drama. It starts as a whisper and gets to a bang because we didn't listen sooner. So it's the same thing, but I think it just takes like that personal responsibility piece, that the universe isn't actually going to throw things to make things harder. It's just going to get a bigger distance. If we don't listen, it gets more and more and more and more. Because I had definitely had abusive relationships and had the same exact what you just spoke to happen. So I get it. But in hindsight, I ignored it for several years, right? And so it wasn't, to me, it's not so much that they're making things happen, it's that I was tolerating longer, way outside of the time that I knew was good for me, until it just like, it's like my spirit just forced through fear, through lack of action, and through lack of alignment. That dissonance created an uproar that forced a change in a sense, right? But again, we always do have free will of choice. Some people will still go right back, or you can use it as an opportunity, as a catalyst for growth and transformation, right? But we ultimately always have that free will of choice. And if we look back at those times, we ignored things most of the time. We ignored something most of the time, right? And it was the only way that we could, our spirit could really, our vibration really attracted it through all that misalignment and fear. And then finally that woke us up to the truth, right? To the conscious awareness of it, which is where we can make change. Does that make sense? Let me know if that makes sense. Our angels, oh, I love this question. Our angels are busy, aren't they? Oh, yes, they are. But I don't know if this was your question now that I read the energy of that a little bit more with your with that. But yes, they are busy, but they're never too busy. This is an important question. So whether this is what you meant exactly or not, I want to speak to this, because I always get people saying, I don't want to take away from somebody else. Maybe it's too small to ask. It's not. Archangel Michael they're not bound by the same time and space, right? I think we do keep them busy. So I thought that was a wink, wink, kind of funny, right? Like, we do keep our angels busy. That's for sure, us little humans here. At the same time, they're never too busy, because like Archangel Michael could have an individual experience with every person on the planet simultaneously. They don't get bound the same way, right? And so it's important that we ask for the little things so that we can cultivate the trust, and actually ultimately then we're more aligned. We're staying more aligned, and that way we're staying more aligned. And then when things don't get to the big bang boom, it doesn't have to happen that way unless we've ignored misalignment, smack. Okay, of course, correction. It's the only way we could get you to do it, is by making it dramatic. Now, sometimes we can avoid things in life. It's how we respond to it. But what I will say is, the more tools and awareness you have, the less like crashing down drama it will be, and the less downtime you'll have. Now it's almost like you can navigate the rolling hills. I still have things go. We all have our lessons, but I'm really good at surrendering it and asking in that moment and taking personal responsibility, healing up my vibration, making the change, and then I can shift it things pretty quickly a lot of the time. Does that make sense? Okay, perfect. So that is really some of the stuff I wanted to share with you, right? How do you know which archangel is speaking in that moment? Well, in truth, all angels can truly help with anything, or they're going to, because of your prayer, you are going to attract the one that, the person that would be good for the job, if you will, right? Now, I do think that there is so you can't mess it up, is what I'm saying, right? Oops. So you can't mess it up. So just ask. And if you don't know the angels, you'll start to learn it. Now, I find value in recognizing the archangels, which actually is something, a good segue for me to share about. And I'm going to go a little deeper into this, because I do have a brand new program, at least at the time of this recording, depending on when and where you hear it, that I've been thinking of for a long time, which is how to communicate and heal with your Archangel Activation Series. So there's 15 different archangels, and I teach you a more in-depth training about the nitty-gritty, about how to receive your messages, decipher your messages, how you'll get your messages, how to recognize your messages, and things like that. And then there's 15 modules with different archangels, with a short video training about their personality, their healing quality, their color of their aura, how you can work with them and evoke them, right? What kinds of things you might invoke them for. And then there's a healing and meditation activation to do two things: help you attune to their energy, so you will recognize them more specifically. And also you'll just receive a healing on that, whatever their topic is. Like Archangel Ariel is the first one, and she's the known as the nature angel, but also of prosperity. So she works with manifestation on the 3D plane. And so you'll get a healing on that particular archangel. So the value that I've seen in a couple of ways as to why I think it's super valuable to be more conscious of who you're working with, which comes over time. So you may not have that awareness initially, so keep at it. And then you can just ask who it is and start to recognize and trust who it is, right? But the more you focus on learning how to, they all have different personalities and different specialties. So calling on Archangel Shamuel, for an example, he's angel of peace. And so you immediately, if you're anxious or stressed, just in calling on that angel will start to bring more peace and groundedness and releasing anxiety right in that exact moment. Just his energy, right? Because that's what he emanates. He's the frequency keeper of that particular vibration. He does many other things as well, but you see what I'm saying? Versus Archangel Michael's got a bigger, more protective energy, and then some of them are more of a softer, feminine, nurturing energy, right? So when you know who to call on, a couple things happens. You get the exact energy that you need in that moment to actually start healing and shifting your vibration, to kind of use their energy to buoy back into alignment with yourself, which is really helpful. So that's when the healing can just occur, right? And the second thing that I love is they will help me in the most unconscious moments. So because I'm super attuned to Archangel Michael's energy or Archangel Gabriel's energy or Raphael, right? I recognize their energy when I'm super unconscious throughout my waking day, which we are sometimes. It doesn't matter how conscious you are. We have about 80,000 thoughts a day. And I promise you, they're not all very evolved, because we got the monkey mind happening. It gets easier over time. And the more you meditate and practice, I think that gets more grounded. But we still do have times where we get into our head and don't even know it. Or maybe you know it, but you can't shift it. So what will happen is when you have this team created, they're watching out. So you invite them in the morning, which I always suggest. It'll help me to align with my higher path today, right? I invite you in for support. And then you pay attention to the signs. So now you've got that free will of choice thing taken care of because you've invited them in. And you can't just do a blanket watch over me the rest of my life and be one and done. It's a relationship cultivated. And your conscious awareness will start to drift away from not recognizing the fact that they are there. They really are always there, right? And so the connection daily is huge. And so when I do that now, they can, it's like they're snapping their fingers at me. Hello, hello. Like, you're unconscious right now. Hand over that worry. I can help. Hello, I got the answer. I got the answer. And so because I can recognize their answer in an unconscious moment, I can be like, oh my gosh, Archangel Michael's here. What? Oh, what do you want? Oh, you're right. I was so in my head right now. Let me hand that over to you and get aligned. And now I'm back in manifestation mode. I'm back on that magic carpet ride. I'm back into synchronicity. Because when we're grounded and aligned in our vibration, that's when synchronicity flows. Have you experienced that? Let me know in the comments. When you've had that experience of having synchronicity, just like you're tripping over miracles, right? It's so fun. And then it doesn't, and then it's hard to keep it going. Well, it's meant to be how we're meant to live, right? When we're aligned, embodying, expressing that higher truth of who we are, that's our, like, at the very simplistic level, our purpose as a human being is to experience our soul and our divinity, and through our relationships and through our life. And for many of you here, and for myself, through our business, right? That's our soul purpose. And so this is really an important thing to recognize, because if we can just have them as like, hey, get it back in line, Missy. You're in your head. Hand over that worry. Hello, we're trying to give you the answer, but you're not hearing. Well, if I hear them break through that chatter, then I'm back aligned and back in alignment to my intuition. I can hear them and I can take the step. And so now I'm manifesting throughout my waking day, even amongst chaos of the collective, even amongst the crazy news, this sadness and everything that's happening. You can still find your alignment. It might be a little tougher, but when you surround yourself and you keep connecting with yourself and you keep buoying your energy back, then we're being the change for the world, because through our frequency of higher healing, we're actually emanating healing for those around us, for one thing. But it's also about putting the oxygen mask on first in that moment, and actually, when we're aligning for ourselves, we're aligning for the collective, micro and macro, always. So we do it for ourselves, and that ultimately helps others. And we can't help others if we can't help ourselves. So we really have to find that alignment. And part of it is about this day-to-day kind of connection with that higher truth and that spiritual vantage point that's above the fear, above the chatter, above the limited family programming, above the chaos, really, which is massive, which is why so many people are waking up right now, right? And so the angels can really help you with miracles. And yes, magic and miracles happen when we're aligned. Absolutely, right? It's just so much fun. But this is really what we're meant to be experiencing every day. It's when we allow our spirit to guide us, when we allow that spiritual support in, we are now using, instead of just intermittently in our power, we're in our power. We're leading from our intuition. We're leading with our spiritual entourage behind us, guiding us, which means sky's the limit. We can just, that's where, we can dream bigger dreams and not have to know the how. We just have to stay locked in and then allow that support to usher us. It's quite empowering, right? Very empowering. My daughter died January 5th, 2022, and have had a bit of a blockage and can't seem to clear it, but trying. Big love, because that right there, I think, is probably, I can't even imagine how that would feel. And I know that it's just, for a parent, probably the worst nightmare, right? And grief is tough in general, no matter who. And our children, I think, is extra, I think, an extra difficult one. Archangel Azrael. So when we have grief and fear and healing, sometimes we do block our communication with our loved ones as well in that way, because it's just too sensitive for us in that time. But Archangel Azrael is a really great angel for grief. In fact, he's actually the second angel we work with in that series. I just was writing an email today. But Archangel Azrael, you can ask him to support you with that grief, perhaps, and even support you. And, especially if we have fears about our loved ones on the other side, he can help ensure that they're, in the light and all of that as well, which they generally are. It's really us tethering to our sadness. And Archangel Chamuel is really great as an angel of peace. And so just being extra gentle with yourself, because that's a process, a healing process. But your angels and guides will help lift you up and help you to process and walk through that journey in a way that will be easier to face and follow through and not get stuck in, right? But that being said, it's a process, right? That's relatively recent for you. So sending you big, big love. Big, big love. Okay, let's see. Metatron has a booming voice in my dreams. I love Archangel Metatron. Yes, he's got a big energy for sure. You can call on your family for certain needs, and you do for the same as angels, right? In terms of, you can absolutely call on you can call on your ancestors and your families. One thing I would caveat on that is that, so yes, the whole thing applies like to any spirit guides, right? When it comes to family, I would just say, if you would ask them that advice in person, then you can ask them on the other side. But if your mother or your aunt or your sister-in-law wasn't somebody you'd ask them about your soul purpose work, they may not be the best guide for the job. Does that make sense? A lot of times our family is not as evolved. It just depends on your family member. We may have an ascended family member that is like an ancestral guide. So it's not to say it can't be this case. But for the most part, I think our family is not that much different on the other side. They definitely lost some of their emotional and mental baggage and emotional baggage if they were stuck on that in the earth plane. But spiritually speaking, they may not be the best person to give you the advice, depending on what it is. Does that make sense? So my experience with my family is, for the most part, is that they're there letting me know that they're there. All is well. We have a great time in communication, and I love feeling their presence and their energy. And they're mostly there letting me know that they're okay and they're supporting me. And sometimes I do get messages from them as well, especially if for instance, my particular mom, my particular immediate family that's alive doesn't have the same spiritual views as I do. And so sometimes my grandparents will come through with, like, if I'm in the moment in my head, like, oh, I wish my parents would understand. Like when I was kind of having that transition of that, they would let me know that they were there and proud of me in some ways. So you do get messages, but if you're not going to ask them about your soul purpose when they were alive, they most likely are not the person to guide you, in which case using the angels for their specialties can yield a little bit higher perspective and information for you. So just keep in mind who you're asking for what. Does that make sense? Okay. I get out of alignment so quick. Most of us do, right? Setting your energy in the morning consistently. It's the hugest part. And then asking your angels. This is where, to me, one of the biggest gifts of working with the archangels has been for me, is they help me find that alignment all day long. And now I can manifest much more quickly, and things don't really rattle me. I don't have those knee-jerk reactions or get stuck down low, even when things sometimes go crazy. I'm usually able to be grounded and connect and asking for the best route through a problem, and things will usually clear up pretty easily because of that. But recognizing that you're out of alignment is the first step of getting back aligned, right? Recognizing when we're in our head or out of alignment is the first opportunity to get aligned again. So I think that's also a great step. So let me know if that makes sense to you. So I know how all these comments I'm hearing, how you feel about this, and I definitely know how it felt to feel in the same position as you. But I promise you, if you just keep at it, just like anything, you have to keep repeating it, and things get more clear and more easy over time. So cultivating, that trust with your angels, cultivating your intuition, cultivating that connection with your angels, they can really help you heal through anything and create the miracles that you were born for, with so much more ease and grace and a lot more fun. And so, if those are things that you're interested in, I'm just going to share briefly about my Archangel Alignment Activation Series, and I'll put this in the comments here. Well, I might have to wait, actually. I'll come back and add the comments in the different areas, depending on which description space you're in for which social media venue. I will share it with you, but it is a pretty powerful program. We have an introductory rate right now, so you'll want to check it out between now and March 17th. So you'll want to check that out, and then you'll have all the descriptions there. I'm going to talk about, there's 15 different angels, so you get lots of bonuses too. So I'm trying to think clearly here. You have training on how to cultivate communication with your angels, vibrational scale meditation, which is a bonus I did you may have heard it in the 4-day series, but if you hadn't heard it, I wanted to include it because it helps you attune to the archangel realm and all the different spirit realms. And then you're going to have 15 different archangel video training, short video training, meditation, attunement, and clearing on their specialty and how to work with them. So you'll be building your spiritual support team. And this is the most valuable information I think that anyone could really have. It's on special for $100 savings right now for $197, or 2 payments of $111, easily worth 4 or 5 times that. And the information and the value that you're going to get is, I think a lot of people I've seen charging similar for programs like that, charging much more. You also get 2 bonus workshops that are some of my best sellers. One's with Archangel Metatron around activating your Merkaba and up-leveling your abundance. And one of them is around embodying your mind, body, and soul. And there's light language activations there and a conscious creation package. So both of those really will up your manifesting as well. So it makes a great packaging together. And those are complete workshop series with a video training and meditations of their own. So all together, this package is super valuable. And I know that working with your angels is going to be something that will make your life much more happy and really help you to align with that higher potential with much more ease and grace in such a short time. So this is something that's been on my heart to create for quite a while. It's been in the background of my mind. I knew I wanted to create it. So I can't be more thrilled than to offer this to you here today. And as that introductory rate, I am giving you that extra discount through this Friday, March 17th, if you're hearing this in real time. Otherwise, you can just check the link and see where we're at on that. Jen's programs are pretty awesome. Thank you, Facebook user. I'm not sure who that is. What do you ask for when it comes to health? Well, I love when it comes to health, you just want to ask your angels to guide you. For me, like for instance, I had a car accident and my oh man, I was in bed for 6 weeks. Talk about a misalignment that I wasn't listening to. And then something happened where my car ran me over. I ended up with a broken foot and a cramped up foot with surgery and another broken foot. So I was in bed for 6 weeks. So I did healing with the angels all the time. And I'm like, I need my body to be healthy again. I want this to heal properly. The surgeons were not sure if the way that my bone was shattered, they didn't know if it would heal correctly or if I had to go back and get a pin and all kinds of things. So I did the thing you just asked, like everything. I want to know, what can I do? First of all, I invited their healing energy in every day. So I did know how to heal with them. But you can just invite them in for healing. And so that is something, that I definitely teach in that program, where you're going to get 15 different healings for every type of thing. So, but if you don't know how to do that, just invite them in and invite their healing in, basically. And so I actively healed with them, but then I also asked them what I could be doing. And they led me to some certain, I feel like I was very guided with the surgeon that I got. I feel like, so the doctor was amazing. And I also felt like they guided me to certain different types of food and a certain type of holistic vitamin. And when I went back for my 6-week appointment, not only did they say that it was healed, he thought it was 3 months. He goes, your bone is healed. It healed, not healing, healed. It was back to solid, right? Because I asked them certain things and they just listened to the guidance. I asked them to guide me when I go to the grocery store for what foods to eat or what vitamins to get, and I found this protein bone building block. And then I was doing my green smoothies and I was running my healing energy every day, asking them to channel through me with their healing energy, right? So I was doing all the things. So we can ask But if we don't take the action on what we get guided to, then it won't manifest either. This is why it's co-creating the miracles and healing, right? We have to be open to receiving it, and we have to often take the actions that we get guided to. And so really it's the same as anything else. You just ask, to get into balance with whatever your health issue is, to guide you to the right doctors, to the right resources, to the right medicine or herbal remedy or whatever it is. Everybody's thing is going to be different. So of course I'm not a medical or health advisor, so I can't, it does not take, as a disclaimer, it does not take the place of medical professional help. And I always do both. I did have to go to the doctor and get surgery, but I prayed to have the right surgeon and to have, miracles work through them. I called my angels in through that process. I did my other side, the holistically on the other end, right? We can work things from many different angles. And I know people that have healed many things in many ways, through energy work for sure. So just about asking and then listening and then taking the action, which is pretty much the same for whatever type of process you want to ask for healing on. Does that make sense? Hopefully that helps a little bit. I think that's everything here. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to share with you. I'll put the links in here if you have any other questions. Then I look forward to answering any questions about the Archangel Alignment Series. That's available for a few more days, $100 savings, which is really, really awesome. We already had people sharing miracles and excitement about the materials that they've gone through so far. We just launched this last week. So it's really, really exciting to me because I know working with the Archangels will be life-changing. And I know if I can do it, you can too. So I look forward to talking with you again soon. Bye for now and have a great rest of the day.